Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to Indaba Africa. Special greetings to those in Southern Africa, as this video is once again focused on Southern Africa, specifically on the lovely little place that many of us from time to time called Cloud Cuckoo Land, also known as Zimbabwe. And what's happening in Zimbabwe? Well, the latest from Zimbabwe, or Cloud Cuckoo Land, is a news report from News 24, which says that Zimbabwe denies discrimination in farm seizures, saying downsizing is a national strategy. The government has denied that it is targeting white-owned farms yet again. There aren't many of these left, ladies and gentlemen, but somehow it finds the time to target them. Or it does not, according to the government itself. Now, these are farms in Mashonaland West. Specifically, they're owned by Peter Drummond and Robert Davenport. Now, Drummond's farm is apparently 2,800 hectares, and he produces 70 tons of poultry per month, or chicken, for retailers. So he's feeding hungry Zimbabweans. Now, Davenport's farm is 1,800 hectares, and he produces blueberries for export, ostensibly for South Africa and neighboring Botswana, where people eat these things and they sell well. Now, the government says there are no plans to seize Davenport or Drummond's farm, just to downsize them. Well, thank God for that. Thank you for not coming and illegally confiscating someone's private property and once again abrogating the rule of law, ZANU-PF. It's very nice of you to show restraint in this case. But who the hell do you think you are, downsizing someone's property and reducing it? And what's the intent? Do you have a plan here? Is there a purpose to this? Does Drummond's farm abut a major water source and others can't have access to it, so you're going to give them access to it by downsizing the farm? Or are you simply cutting the man's farm down to just 500 hectares because you've decided that that's the most he can have? Now, in a statement that was released on Thursday by Agriculture Minister Perence Shiri. Wait a second. Perence Shiri. That sounds very familiar. Would that be the same Perence Shiri who in the Zimbabwean military was responsible as the commander of the North Korean-trained 5th Brigade in the early part of the 1980s, from 1983 to 1986, that deployed throughout Matabeleland, the traditional home of the Ndebele, and whose actions resulted in the death of somewhere between 20 and 50,000 Zimbabweans, many of whom were executed, shot in the back of the head, and dumped in ditches and buried in shallow graves throughout Matabeleland? Would that be the same Perence Shiri? The same gentleman who later was commander of the Zimbabwe Air Force. Of course, that would be the Air Force that, for Mugabe's birthday and the national celebrations, they could never manage more than 2 or 3 aircraft at a time, owing to lack of money for maintenance, spare parts, and fuel to pay to fly these aircraft. Yeah, that may in fact be the same Perence Shiri, now the agriculture minister in Zimbabwe. According to Statutory Instrument 41 of 2020, so they're making agricultural laws in 2020. Statutory Instrument 41 of 2020, Sections 5 and 6 farms will be downsized in terms of their ecological region. So apparently farms larger than 500 hectares. Farms in Mashonaland West Province, where the 2 farms are located, are not allowed to be bigger than 500 hectares for ecological reasons. Yet farms were far larger than this throughout Rhodesia and Zimbabwe's history, and they didn't damage the ecology of the region. Yet now, according to geniuses in the Ministry of Agriculture, whose minister himself, his most famous accomplishment is the deaths of thousands of Zimbabweans under his command, under his direction. That's his most famous accomplishment in life, but now he's an agricultural minister. And they've decided that farms cannot be more than 500 hectares in size. This is lunacy, ladies and gentlemen. So Piri is quoted as saying the following in his statement: "It is therefore in line with government policy that the ministry is undertaking a nationwide exercise of regulating farm sizes to comply with the gazetted maximum farm size of each representative ecological region." He added that the implementation of the process to downsize farms is being religiously pursued without any bias, discrimination, nepotism, or favoritism. Regularization of farm sizes is a transparent government exercise which is being done without consideration of one's color or creed. Well, yeah, there are almost no white commercial farmers left in Zimbabwe, so you can make that ludicrous claim now. But that's not really the point, is it? What is the government of Zimbabwe doing? It knows nothing about agriculture, and it has proven that time and again. The only thing that the government of ZANU-PF knows about agriculture is how to pilfer from it and how to undermine and destroy it, and undermine property rights and human rights. That's what ZANU-PF and the government of Zimbabwe knows, not agriculture. It's fascinating to me to listen to the fantasy lies and arguments of one Robert Gabriel Mugabe complaining that white settlers, kith and kin, stole the land and took it away and came here in 1890. Well, there's truth to that story. But the reality is that the majority of people in commercial farming in Zimbabwe only started their commercial farms after the Second World War, including many former Commonwealth soldiers who relocated to Rhodesia in hopes of a better life, bought land legally, settled on it, and turned marginal farmland into productive farmland through modern agricultural processes, through scales of economy, having larger farm sizes so that it became profitable rather than small plots, which were unprofitable and not ecological. That's the truth. And from 1980 to 2000, 42% of all that commercial farmland, land designated such, changed hands at least one time. Some of those acres or hectares of land change hands 2, 3, 4, 5 times or more because farmland tends to get sold amongst different farmers who have different methods and different ideas on using it. 42%. Who was prime minister from 1980 to 1987, 1988, and then president until 2017? Would that not be one Robert Gabriel Mugabe? And would not ZANU and then ZANU PF have had unending control of that government throughout that 20-year period? In fact, it did. And that government approved the sale of farmland. And it didn't limit the size of farms. Why is ZANU PF limiting the size of farms now? And who do they think they are? Now, what's interesting about this is that the decision to downsize farms may be considered a national strategy, and I consider it once again a moronic, idiotic, stupid national strategy, much like printing money, which led to hyperinflation on the scale of Weimar Germany, much like banning foreign currencies when your dollar, Zim dollar, is worthless, much like reintroducing the Zim dollar. Or let's go back to the time frame before you started stealing farmland and abrogating the rule of law, when Zimbabwe's government set up the grain marketing board and forced commercial farmers to sell their grain at below market prices so that corrupt members of the ZANU-PF government could pocket the difference between what they paid the farmers and then what they sold it for in the open market where it was worth more. Yeah. However, it is proved controversial, with government claiming that it has been applied without discrimination, while critics claim the exercise has targeted white-owned farms and opponents of President Emerson Mnangagwa's administration. For instance, ladies and gentlemen, this News 24 report talks about exiled former minister in the Mugabe government, Xavier Kasukuwere, who accused the government of targeting his productive farm for political reasons. We know it's targeted. A lot has been happening against this very person ever since the coup, and largely to try and destroy what we have worked for. Government is using land to attack those who they think are against them. That is the pettiness. We must be above that. We have many challenges affecting the country we have to deal with, he told Zimbabwe media earlier this year. Well, as I've warned people, when you give this sort of power to a totalitarian state, a country like Zimbabwe, a country like Cuba, a country like Venezuela, in which the authorities determine who gets to own what and when and how, instead of the free market and the rule of law being the order of the day, this is what you get. And for the country to the south neighboring Zimbabwe, known as South Africa, the expropriation without compensation amendment that was before the parliament is just as insidious and just as dangerous. That law, should it become part of the Constitution, will be used to target political opponents of the regime. Not simply rich white landowners, but any opponents. And we see this taking place here. And I'll have another follow-up story talking about farms and Zimbabwe's sports minister and what's happened there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've liked this content and you're not already a subscriber to the channel, I ask that you consider becoming a subscriber by smashing that subscription button right down there. Now, be sure to toggle that bell icon. Only about 25 or 30% of subscribers actually take the time to toggle it. And then they often complain that they're not notified of new videos. Well, you have to smash that little notification button. Also, feel free to leave comments. I try to read all comments. And finally, I ask that you smash the like button, because like makes a difference. The more likes as a percentage of views of this video, the more likely it is that others will become aware of the video and be able to share in the conversation and discourse. I thank you for your time and your patronage. Have a pleasant day.